Hey everyone, Carl here with Literate Lessons, bringing you another deep dive this week. This week, I thought it would be interesting to look at niche picks. There's been a lot of talk here lately about how people want to use their favorites, play with their favorites. It's been brought up a couple times in the server about how building your own original team usually gets you into VGC and things like that. So I figured, why not bring the best of both worlds together? Let's teach you how to use niche mons and overall just build better teams with them, because it's a lot more nuanced than just picking your favorite Pokemon and slapping it into a team. Like, I'm not going to take Magnezone and just put it in every team because I love the Pokemon. There's got to be specific ways and specific things that Magnezone does for your team so you can optimize and use it properly. But before we get started on all that, make sure to do all that fun YouTube stuff for us. Hit that like button, ring the bell for notifications for when new videos go live. Smash the subscribe button. You all have blown me away with the amount of support we're getting on videos. We are blown past any kind of goals I set for like mid-year. We're almost a 375. Like the end of the year goal was 400 subs and we're almost to that already, so I would love it. Just keep up the support, and I hope you enjoy this fun little deep dive. So the first thing here is, let's define what a niche Pokemon is. Niche, I believe, would be defined as a unique Pokemon that does something very specific. Like in the case of Porygon 2 here, it sets Trick Room. It's a bulky, normal type Trick Room setter that has access to some unique tools. Eerie Impulse, Foul Play, Icy Wind, things like that. On that same coin, there's also Mimikyu. Mimikyu, again, is a niche Trick Room setter because of its unique skill set. Technically, every Pokemon is a niche Pokemon. They all do something really well. That's why they're all Pokemon. However, there's some that do things better than others that get more popularized. Think Dusclops back in like Series 3 through 8, before Urshifu became a thing. It was the premier trick setter next to Porygon 2 for a very long time. Now, we hardly see it because there's different options, and the format has kind of adapted and changed a little bit. We have things like Calyrex Ice, who can set Trick Room. Palkia can set Trick Room. Your Restricteds can do this thing now. So it's not the best example, but that's kind of the idea of, this is the generic general Trick Room setter. Well, here's all these other ones that do specific things that can be utilized on your team in different ways. Sticking with that Trick Room example here, let's look at this core right here of Palkia, Calyrex, and Indeedee, Mimikyu. This is was very common back in like early Series 12 when we got our IRL events back, Brisbane, Salt Lake City, and things like that. However, it's kind of adapted since then into the Reshiram versions, but this fits my explanation a little bit better. So let's see here. We have Palkia, Calyrex, Indeedee, Mimikyu. The big thing here is we are using redirection to set up our Trick Room via Palkia or Calyrex or Mimikyu. The one downside here is Indeedee's not the greatest into Zacian, who beats Palkia, Calyrex, and Mimikyu in a way. And so the idea here is that Indeedee, being the general redirector, might not be the best fit for our team. So what can we do to fix this? In this situation, we have other options in terms of redirection. Now, granted, it may not be Follow Me, but Rage Powder is a very good redirector tool, even though grass types ignore it. None of your Pokemon are really worried about the Venusaur hitting them, or things like that. And so you have things like Amoonguss, Volcarona, Butterfree. All of these things can be good redirectors. For the sake of this, let's talk about Amoonguss. Amoonguss is okay into Zacian. It's not the greatest answer. It's still very bulky with that poison grass typing. You don't have to worry about any super effective hits from Zacian. That being said, because you're not really resisting those hits, it may not be the best redirector for this squad in particular, who have a bunch of weaknesses to Zacian. On the flip side of that, the other one we saw, Volcarona, is a very good answer to Zacian. A lot of Zacians don't want to attack while Volcarona is on the field, partly due to the fact that they're not doing a whole lot of damage into Volcarona, and due to its flame body ability having a chance to burn them, it's very high risk, low reward payoff to be attacking with your Zacian in front of a Volcarona. This also dissuades things like Charizard from Gmax Wildfire, because it's not going to take out the Volcarona if you're Sash or high special defense investment. You don't have to worry about that too much. But overall, Volcarona kind of fits this core a little bit better than, say, their average Indeedee or the average Amoonguss. If we were to swap Palkia for Reshiram and play that, you might be able to get away with an Indeedee or Amoonguss a little bit easier because you're not super duper dead to Zacian. And this is kind of the example we wanted to get into. This is where finding that niche Pokemon, that one thing that just does something a little bit better than the others, is valuable in this situation. Volcarona, being a fire bug type, resists all of Zacian's stabs. You can switch it into anything that Zacian is going to attack into. You can even redirect it because Zacian can't carry safety goggles. So it's super duper easy to kind of do this with other teams and find little tidbits and little things you like and things you don't like about certain Pokemon and maybe swap them in and out. Let's do another example here. This is more of an example on what not to do when you're looking to replace niche Pokemon. So we all know the power of Kyogre, Zacian, Incineroar, Rillaboom. This is a very strong core. You have Fire, Water, Grass. Zacian does so much damage on everything else, cleans up everything around it. So overall, this 4 is really, really strong. Well, let's say you don't like Incineroar. You want to play something else. Well, the common niche replacement for Incineroar, if it's not Landorus, back in the day, was Arcanine. And this is something I'm seeing a little bit in other metas, is Arcanine starting to become more popular because of its better matchup into Zacian. Zacian can't hit you super effectively with the Sacred Sword, so it has to just chip you away slowly after an Intimidate instead of hitting you super effectively. This would be a situation where Arcanine isn't exactly a one-for-one switch. The big thing here about Arcanine is, even though you aren't weak to Zacian, you aren't doing the same thing Incineroar is doing. This team here with Rillaboom, Zacian, Kyogre, it likes to be position heavy. What I mean by that is you're switching in and out a lot, trying to get your Pokemon into a good position to where you can deal damage to your opponent and pick up knockouts very effectively. Arcanine doesn't do that really well. Where you're lacking on Arcanine is the pivot ability. Incineroar, being Incineroar, has access to Parting Shot. That's the thing that makes Incineroar great. It's not the fact that it's like Fire, Dark, Intimidate. That's not what makes Incineroar great. It's what makes Incineroar great is the access to Fake Out, the access to Parting Shot. And then on top of that, you have all the extra stuff that Fire and Dark types get. Snarl, Flare Blitz, Will-O-Wisp, things like that nature. You even get things like Taunt. Even if Arcanine just had U-Turn, I think that would make it a better sell as a swap for Incineroar, but it doesn't, unfortunately. So unfortunately for Arcanine, it's not the niche pick switch that like our Volcarona example was before. Incineroar is really, really good on this squad, and that's not something you really can replace. But Carl, I hear you crying in the comments right now. I want to play with X. I want to play with Y. How do I do that? Well, it comes down to being a very good team builder and knowing what your niche Pokemon you want to play with does. Priority one, again, is, I want to probably say this a million times, know what the Pokemon does that no other Pokemon can do. Like in the case of this team here, this was my backup team for Indy. I don't plan on playing this anytime soon. This team was really, really cool, but it's outdated now and probably won't keep up with the meta for very long. But this team was Dialga, Yveltal. These are both very weak Zacian mods. That being said, the whole idea of the squad was to use Grimmsnarl Fake Tears to blow things up with our special attackers in Regieleki, Yveltal, and Dialga. So we needed a good way to answer Zacian. That was the big problem for this team, and we found that by adjusting my EV spread on my Regieleki a little bit so I can survive Behemoth Blades a little bit easier. Adding Landorus to the team, which is a great Dynamax target when they are very reliant on Zacian to win the endgame. And then we needed a redirector because we were doing Trick Room things. We played with Amoonguss a lot. It was okay, not the greatest. We had a big ice weakness that way with Yveltal, Landorus, and then Amoonguss. And so we ended up on Volcarona for this team because it answered our Zacian issue. It answered our ice problem that we had before, so we're not completely blown out by a Calyrex ice anymore. And you could deal with Charizard effectively using Focus Sash. You can eat that Wildfire, and then you don't go down to Wildfire Chip, meaning you can click Rage Powder again and hopefully take the Charizard out with your Dynamax target or whatever you were doing. So this is a great example of finding that thing that this Pokemon does, or that what you need on your team, and finding the Pokemon that fills that role. In this situation, Redirection, not weak to Ice, my Volcarona named Mothra fits. Another example is looking at Rinja Sun. Rinja Sun, not this one. Where is it? Rinja Sun, as we don't see it too much anymore, but this is another good example of finding those niche Pokemon that aren't super duper playable, but really work well on that team. Gastrodon is the niche Pokemon on this squad. It answers Kyogre. It helps your water type matchups a ton. It helps you answer your Kyogre issues, which you don't normally get to deal with outside of setting up Sun on Groudon and getting some good Gastrodon activations. And then it also helps keep your Charizard away, surviving from like Thundurus, Aleki, and things like that by being a good ground type pivot in. Overall, you couldn't probably play a different water type in the slot. You might be able to get away with like Swampert, who does something similar, but then you lose points against Kyogre, which is why you're playing Gastrodon in the first place. And so the second tip here is your niche Pokemon needs to have the team built around it rather than slapping it into the team. You can't take your favorite Pokemon and then just say, oh, this is X and X type, I'm going to put that in this slot on this team that I like. That doesn't work. You're going to end up with a suboptimal team, and you're going to be questioning, well, why isn't this working? Why can't I do this? This should work. What's going on? And that's why the team is built around these niche Pokemon to make them shine. And so when you go ahead and just grab and slap it in there, without really thinking on what do I need, what should I do, you end up in these situations where it's just saying, oh, I'm going to play Swampert because it has access to Yawn and it's a ground type, a water ground type. It just doesn't work. You just can't do that because what you need is a Kyogre answer that happens to be ground type. And that's what Gastrodon does. Let's look at one more niche Pokemon example here. This is a very old version that of Yveltal Zacian that I was playing with way before IRL events started back up. And the idea was to use Blastoise with Zacian, Rillaboom, and Yveltal as your max targets to kind of just beat people up. It was very, very strong into the Kyogre teams of the time. And then we had a real big issue with Regieleki. We have two of our max Pokemon really weak to Electric, and Zacian doesn't really like lining up into it either. You don't really take a lot of Life Orbs Aleki hits very well. And so we're playing Alolan Marowak as our Lightning Rod user. This is kind of cool because we also were weak to Zacian. And it also answers that because you are immune to fighting, you resist Steel and Fairy, so you can easily blow up an opposing Zacian on the crackback or hit Will-O-Wisp or whatever, while also being that good electric type answer. And so this harkens back to point number one a little bit of finding what the Pokemon you need does, but also building around that Pokemon at the same time, because Marowak has weaknesses to ground types. We have answers to those. You're weak to Kyogre. We have answers to those. So it's cool when you find that niche Pokemon, that light bulb hits, and you get to explore more of what that Pokemon can do for you, while also having a very strong and synergistic team around. And that's all I got this week. I hope this helps a little bit with your team building adventures for NAIC, Milwaukee, or whatever's in the future. This is probably going to come out too late for New Jersey, unfortunately, but I hope this helps you on your team building journey. It was kind of fun because I've been seeing so many people in the Discord talking about it. I've seen it on Twitter, and with everything like that. So I wanted to cover this stuff before I left for Indy, but I didn't find time. And so this is probably one of my strengths, and I love sharing my wealth of knowledge on this stuff. Again, make sure to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, all that great YouTube stuff. I didn't even do a question of the day. Question of the day, what's your favorite niche Pokemon? By our definition we defined at the start of the video. Personally, I think Alolan Marowak is probably my favorite. I love the design. I love the Fire Ghost type. I love it's like Fire Ghost. I have Lightning Rod, so I'm immune to electric. I'm immune to fighting. I have really good resistances, really good damage output. So this thing is really, really cool. And I would say this is probably my favorite niche Pokemon right now. But yeah, have a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you're at in the world. We will be back. I'm not sure if I'm going to be back for Sunday because we don't really have a video yet for that. But I will definitely be back on Monday for the podcast, and I will see you all there. Bye, everyone.